Respected Rosamma Madam and all the participants. Welcome to the second day of FDC on outcome-based education, framing questions using Bloom's taxonomy, organized jointly by IQAC Sri Shankara College Kaladi and UGC Stride Trinity University Kotak. Hope you are all enjoyed the first day with Rosamma Madam. She is an energetic, vibrant and highly motivated personality. We are all lucky to have her in this FDC. I personally believe every college teacher in the state must go through this FDC or listen to her on this topic. I wholeheartedly welcome her to the second day morning session, Bloom's taxonomy and learning domain. Welcome, madam. I also welcoming all the participants joined here. Now, madam, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, dear friends. I hope all are happy to listen to the next stage of higher order thinking level questions and Bloom's taxonomy. And of course, the topic is related to Bloom's taxonomy, and that we will discuss in the afternoon. Now, we will be going to discuss something related to the different types of knowledge that we are transacting in the classroom, which will be helpful for us to identify the taxonomy or to get the concept of the taxonomy in a broader and deeper sense. And before going to the next aspect of this taxonomy and outcome-based education, let us have a reflection upon the task we have assigned yesterday. The first task is related to the analysis of the question paper. How do you see the question paper, its structure? Are you satisfied with the question paper? And that was the first task. And the second was something related to an advertisement in our language. So let us go to the first task, and you are free to share your views. So please come forward and share your views related to that. And I would like to know whether the same pattern or the problem can be visible in the question papers of other universities. We have people from other universities from Mathura, and anybody from that university, from Sri Meenakshi Government Arts and Science College, Dr. Satyabhama, Sri Meenakshi, can you share your views related to the question paper of your university? Have you gone through that evaluative procedure?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Maybe Maybe we'll share tomorrow, ma'am. Yesterday
Okay,
you
no
say
problem.
that the assignment is not, so I haven't prepared. Maybe I'll show it
Ah.
tomorrow, ma'am. No
No,
problem.
no, it's not. No, it's not a problem. We would like to know whether the same thing is going on, or we would like to see a few
No,
question
ma'am. We
papers.
have
Okay.
also discussed in part A and part B and part C.
Yeah.
Usually for UGC, the part A is something like direct questions. One or two questions are like that, and one or two questions are like the how they understand. We can test like that. And part B and part C, I am a chemist, so as far as the chemistry is concerned, in the part B 5 mark questions, usually we give the two problems, ma'am. In the organic chemistry, two problems we have discussed, and two questions may be a direct questions for the students who are not able to conduct the problems. And part C, compulsory, we are giving one problem in the organic chemistry. So that is the compulsory one, ma'am. So how much they will understand the level of the paper, we are checked in that way, ma'am. So in the all the part A, part B, part C, we have all the three types of the question. One is the direct question, one is the problem oriented, and one is somewhat simple questions for the level of the students, for the who did not understand completely. For that purpose, of sake of the purpose, we will give some easy questions, one or two questions. So in all the category, part A, part B, part C, whatever it may be, we have give the three levels of understanding in each one, ma'am. We are usually discussed like that only, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
objective questions are also placed in the part A question, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Then, anybody from our state? If you have gone through the question paper, you can share it. ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ?
Morning, this is Dr. Femina from Sri Kalishwari College, Shivakasi. Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible. Please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, when I analyzed the question papers, I could find that we are not giving much importance to higher order thinking skills. We talk about define, explain, and all such questions I could see, but for higher order thinking skills, we have not given significant importance, ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else to share?
Hello, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Myself, Febi Paiva. I'm working in the Kerala University, St. Joseph's College for Women. Yesterday, when I saw one of my open course question paper, what I found was some of the questions which are given for 15, the division is 1 mark, 2 mark, 4 mark, and 15 mark essay. But I could see that the question which is given in 15 mark is even one of the subheading has been given for the 4 marks, even that has been asked for 1 mark also. Such repetition have been seen. At the same time, even I felt that there is no uniformity. And most of the questions have been coming from same part, it's not been divided. All the portions are not covered. Like 3 things I have noticed in that question paper. But another thing, an advantage, and one of the merit what I've seen is that higher order thinking have been introduced in that paper. Normally in our subject zoology, we normally don't see that kind of questions. But then in this paper, I have seen that the students are made to think what they have learned. Thank you.
Okay, very good observation. Very good.
I'm from Calicut University. I had analyzed certain questions, and even from experience, I'm disclosing that many a time it is very difficult to find a good question paper which has got extension to different kinds of possibilities for the students, and that is very limiting to describe, explain, things like that. There are opportunities like comments, give your comment, design things, or sometimes you critically evaluate the statement, things like that are happening. sometimes we take so much caution that we will be designing model question paper, but still the examiners, the question paper setters will be from different universities, and it's very difficult to give orientation toward them. Another thing was that sometimes the repetition of strategies can be found, like old question paper, what they had made or others have made will be taken to consideration as model.
Very good, ma'am. Very good observations. So now we are able to clearly understand the nature of the question paper by just scanning through the question. That is the purpose of the exercise. So the observations now sharing by you clearly shows that you have got that skill to identify the different aspects of the question paper. Okay, anybody else to share?
Dr. Ronnie.
Yes.
Ma'am, when I analyze the question, I realized
from
that
St.
around
Teresa's College.
75% of the question starts with what is.
Yes.
This is a thing which I noticed from the question paper.
Okay, very good. So the structure of the question, that's all question starts with what is. That shows that it belongs to very low level thinking, right? And it gives importance to memorization only. Very good observation. Now please come. Who is from St. Teresa's College?
Ma'am, Supriya here, ma'am. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Ma'am, I just had to share another observation, ma'am. I was given an opportunity to set a question paper from another university. So the materials that I receive is the syllabus content and a model question paper and the instructions how to frame questions. But then it is very difficult because in the syllabus content, it is not in detail that what all things are taught under a certain topic. It is just the topic that we are getting and just a model question paper. No outcomes or no detailed notes what the student have studied and all that. So at that point, we just frame questions based on the topic that is there in the syllabus so that we don't trouble the students much. Maybe if we are asking something from our own, it may come from out of syllabus or something like that. They have not learned or anything. That is a problem. So we just frame the question paper based on the topics of the content in the syllabus. But it is a wrong way. We also know that, but it is limited. It is a disadvantage that the question paper setters have from their partner.
Yes, Supriya, this is one of the most important challenge while we frame question papers. When some university or some institution assign us to frame the question paper, they send a set of topics for us and we have to identify what are the subtopics related to that. And the question paper format also will be there and we are compelled to follow that pattern only. And at the same time, when we are not aware of the outcomes of that particular institution or university, it is difficult to prepare a question paper. So we are compelled to follow the same pattern of the previous year. So we are the university, or we are not expected to give any change or any divergent type of questions. And at the same time, we think that, or we say that the students can easily attend the examination without making much trouble for them. Okay, Supriya, very good observations. Anything else different from this? Of course, this type of yes.
Hey, ma'am, I'm Rekha Matthew from Alfonso College, Pala.
Yes, Rekha.
Yeah, okay. The standard of question paper was actually much better around 2012, 2015 time compared to what it is now. നമ്മളൊരു 2015 അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 14 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പർ എടുത്ത് നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ ആ സമയത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിന്റെ ഫോർമാറ്റും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിന്റെ സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡും കമ്പയർ ചെയ്യുമ്പം ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിന്റെ ലെവൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിന്റെ ലെവൽ വളരെ പൂവർ ആയിട്ട് വരുന്നു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ വാട്ട് ഈസ് എക്സ്പെക്റ്റഡ്, ഈ ഔട്ട്കം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വെറും ഒരു എക്സാം എഴുതി പിള്ളേർക്ക് മുഴുവൻ നല്ല മാർക്ക് കിട്ടാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സ്ട്രീമിലേക്കുള്ള ഒരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പർ മാത്രം ആയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുവാണ് ഒരു വിത്തിൻ എ 5 year 7 year ഗ്യാപ്പ്. അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് ആ പഴയ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പർ എടുത്ത് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ നമുക്ക് മറ്റേത് കാണുമ്പോൾ കുറച്ച് സന്തോഷം തോന്നുമായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പറിനകത്ത് കമ്പാരിറ്റീവ്ലി ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് മച്ച് ഈസിയർ സോ ദാറ്റ് ദ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ഗെറ്റ് ഗുഡ് മാർക്ക്.
Yes. change in the system of education. നമ്മുടെ ഒരു എന്താണ് credit
കുട്ടികൾ
choice.
ഇങ്ങനെയും പറയാറുണ്ട് മാഡം.
Yes, yes, please.
കുട്ടികൾ ഇങ്ങനെയും പറയാറുണ്ട്, ക്ലാസ്സിൽ കയറിയില്ലെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല, കഴിഞ്ഞ 4 വർഷത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പർ ഒക്കെ ആൻസർ ചെയ്താൽ നല്ല മാർക്ക് മേടിക്കാം. അതും ഇവിടെ ഒരു കമന്റബിൾ ആയ കാര്യമാണ്.
Yes, yes. These all are the general observations that we can easily identify by observing the question paper, and we are aware of it, no doubt. And when we get these sort of reflections by observing, by evaluating or analyzing the question paper, we come to the conclusion that a change is essential. And we believe that this is not the aim of the real classroom interaction. This should not be the aim of education. So when we say that there should be some graduate attributes, there should some program or course outcomes, and when the examinations are going like this, so this is not the procedure to ensure that the outcomes are achieved. So we come to the difficulty that we feel in the outcome assessment. And at the same time, we are not aware of the outcomes at the beginning or at the framing of the curriculum too. നമുക്ക് അതും അറിഞ്ഞുകൂടാ. But during this time, നമ്മളൊരു within this gap or 2019 onwards, UGC insisting that we have to stick on this outcome-based education, and the curriculum is already prepared. We still continue the same pattern of questions before 2019, and everything is going in the same manner. So what changes can we adopt in our classrooms to make certain innovations in our classrooms so that we prompt our students to think more and achieve more? That's the only possibility for us now. Otherwise, we have to get a clear policy framing on the policy implications and directions from the higher authorities, and there should be a uniformity in all institutions to follow these type of changes. Anyway, the basic awareness and understanding related to all these issues will help us to identify the nature of the question paper, the nature of the outcomes, and it will help us to become more acute to deal with the students in the platform of outcome-based education. So that was the purpose of this task. So coming to this, I hope it's over. Anything more that we can discuss later? Now we will go to the next or the second task. It was just a creative and interesting task related to how the thinking can be deviated and can be linked to different aspects of our life and classroom. If we think differently, if we see things in a different manner, we can integrate everything in our classroom, in our professional practice. And these sort of practices are to be integrated in our profession. So, പാദങ്ങൾക്ക് മുണ്ട് മോഹങ്ങൾ, how we will integrate this in our classroom teaching, or what are the possibilities of this concept in our classroom? Yes, please come.
Madam, actually I didn't get the question properly, but still as I understood, when we say even feet will be having higher level dreams, we can connect that to any kind of situation, any kind of classroom content. It may be directly linked to discrimination. It can be directly linked to slow learners or different variety of learners. Or it can be like certain kinds of aspect that we set aside, marginalization and things like that. And that can be brought to the class in a wonderful way.
Very good. Hello. Yes. Yes. Any observations or reflections related to this particular?
Ma'am, hello. Am I audible? Okay, my Suparna. Okay, I think the is interrupting. There is a breakage in the voice. Can you hear me?
Now it is okay. Hello.
You're
Hello.
audible.
Yes,
Madam?
yes.
Okay. To my understanding, what I understood is that when we go and teach a class, we have to have a notion that the students sitting in front of us are from different background, or from different they have different perspective towards education, towards studying everything. പല തട്ടിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാരാണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പല രീതിയിൽ പഠിപ്പിച്ചാൽ പല പോലെ, അതായത് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരേ രീതിയിൽ പൊട്ടൻഷ്യൽ ഉണ്ടാവണം എന്നില്ല പഠിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. പല കാറ്റഗറി ഓഫ് കുട്ടികൾ ഉണ്ടാവാം. അപ്പോ അവർക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഫീസിബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിൽ വി ഹാവ് ടു ടേക്ക് ക്ലാസ്സസ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ our teaching mode should be like that എന്നുള്ളതാണ് തോന്നുന്നു, what I understood.
Okay, very good. It's a different observation. All have differences
Your voice is not clear.
to be identified. Hello.
നന്നായി കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല, മൈക്ക് പ്രോബ്ലം ഉണ്ട്.
Voice is breaking, ma'am. Yeah.
Now?
It's breaking in between.
Now is it clear?
It's clear.
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, there are different types of students in the classroom, and their individuality is to be identified, and we have to cater for their needs, and the teaching should be according to their personal needs, and that should be catering to satisfy their individual differences, and that is an important aspect. Very good. Any other different observations?
Ma'am, good morning.
Good morning. Your name, please?
I'm Benny George, working
Yes.
in Central College Rani.
Yes.
പാദങ്ങൾ രണ്ട് തരത്തിൽ കാണാമെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. ഒന്ന്, teacher, when the teacher is in the dais, students who are attending us, sometimes they may be bright students who are interested to share their idea while we are taking classes. Giving a chance to a student may be the thought of intelligent student while taking a class which is not being properly prepared. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു, അതായത് നിങ്ങളൊന്ന് മാറി നിൽക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ഭംഗിയായിട്ട് ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാം എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടിയുടെ ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡിനെ ഒരു പാദങ്ങളായിട്ട് കാണാം. ഒരാളുടെ വിജയത്തില് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുമ്പോൾ ഒരു ഹൗസ് വൈഫായിട്ട് പ്രയത്നിക്കുന്ന ഒരു നല്ല വീട്ടമ്മയെ ഇക്കാലത്ത് കുറവാണെങ്കിൽ പോലും ജോലിയില്ലാതെ മക്കൾക്കും കുടുംബത്തിനു വേണ്ടി, ഭർത്താവിനും കുടുംബത്തിനും വേണ്ടി, അവരുടെ വിജയത്തിനു വേണ്ടി അക്ഷീണം പ്രയത്നിക്കുന്ന ഒരു അമ്മയുടെ റോള് ആ ഒരു പാദമായിട്ട് കാണാവുന്ന ഒരു രണ്ടു തരത്തിൽ ഞാനിങ്ങനെ നോക്കി കണ്ടിരുന്നു. ആദ്യത്തേത് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ ഒരു കുട്ടികള് എന്ന് അവർക്ക് തോന്നുന്ന, ആ പ്രായത്തിൽ തോന്നുന്ന ഒരു തമാശ, നിങ്ങൾ മാറി നിൽക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ഇതിനേക്കാളും ഭംഗിയായിട്ട് എടുക്കാമെന്ന് പറയാനുള്ള ഒരു ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, അത് ആ ഒരു പാദത്തിന്റെ മുഖമായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കാണുന്നു. രണ്ടാമത്തെ കേസില് ശരിക്കും ജീവിതത്തിലെ വിജയങ്ങൾക്ക് പിന്നാമ്പുറം നിന്ന് അതിനെ മുന്നോട്ട് നയിക്കുന്ന ശക്തമായ കരങ്ങള്, അതും പാദങ്ങളായിട്ടാണ് ഞാൻ കാണുന്നത്. താങ്ക് യു മാം.
Very good observation, Benny. വളരെ ഡിഫറെൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഒബ്സർവേഷൻ ആണല്ലേ. സോ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ഹാവ് ദ കപ്പാസിറ്റി ടു replace the teacher in the sense that they can perform as a teacher, and they have their own capacity to perform the teacher. That doesn't indicate that the teacher is bad. അങ്ങനെയല്ല, അവർക്കും അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും എന്നുള്ള തരത്തിലുള്ള കുട്ടികളുടെ ഒരു motivational aspect. The second one is very significant, and I don't know how a male identify these type of behavior thoughts of a woman. എങ്ങനെയാണ് അതിനോട് പിന്നെ സമാനത പുലർത്തിയ ഒരു പുരുഷന് ചിന്തിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നതെന്ന് എനിക്ക് വളരെ അത്ഭുതകരമായിട്ട് തോന്നുന്നു.
Just because of my own life, just because of my own life experience, because my mother is doing that.
Very good, very good, very good. So everybody
who's behind in my family.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the observation was really nice. That is to be appreciated. എത്ര പേർക്ക് ഇതൊക്കെ തിരിച്ചറിയാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്? How many of us can accept these sort of hard work from the part of the women at home, and how many of us can respect them? That is the question. But this is an interesting observation. Congratulations, Benny. Very good. Then anything like this?
ഹലോ മാം.
യെസ്.
ഹലോ, എൻ്റെ പേര് മേരി ജെയിൻ എന്നാണ്. ഞാൻ സെന്റ് ആൽബർട്ട്സ് കോളേജിലെ മലയാളം അധ്യാപികയാണ്. ഈ ഒരു പാഠങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് ഒരു വിഷയത്തെ കേരളത്തിലെ ഒന്നും കൂടാതെ മറ്റൊരു വിഷയം എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്, ഇറങ്ങിയ ഒരു ചിത്രം, ഷെർണി എന്നാണ് അതിന്റെ പേര്. ഭൂമിയിൽ അതിന്റെ പ്രശ്നത്തെ കുറിച്ച് വളരെ ശക്തമായിട്ട് പ്രതിപാദിക്കുന്ന ചിത്രമാണ്. അപ്പോ ആ ഒരു ചിത്രവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെടുത്തി ഒരു ശകലത്തെ ഒരു കാവ്യശകലമായിട്ട് അതിനെ ടെൻഡൻസ് ആയിട്ട് ഇതിനെ ക്ലാസ് മുറിയിൽ ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുമെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Very good, very good. Congratulations. How we extend the content or the knowledge to different aspects of the existing knowledge or the available knowledge. So this is the best example for that. നമുക്ക് കേൾക്കുന്ന, നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് വളരെ ഡിഫറെന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളുമായി നാം കണക്ട് ചെയ്ത് we create meaning, and this is actually the construction of knowledge. This is the process of constructing knowledge in the classroom. So this is simple sentence, and this simple sentence that has a direct meaning, but we try to extend or we try to link, integrate with different situations that we face, with different literature that we read, and we make our own meaning so that we can make a clear picture for getting more motivation for the self as well as for other people. Very good observation, Mary. Congratulations. All these are very good observations related to Padangalku Munda Mohangal. Anyway, I hope there might be very different observations like this, but since we have paucity of time, let us go to the next aspect of the taxonomy. All these type of observations and analysis help us to think in a different way, and this thinking will help us to make us more refined and more purified than this purity. And this reflections in the classrooms will highly helpful for the students to think in a different way. And I always believe that the responsibility of the teacher is to create a generation, those who possess the capacity to think effectively. Anybody can mug up the content that we give in the classroom to an answer paper and achieve marks. But is it possible to develop the spirit of thinking, the real thinking for the students in the classroom? That's very important. That's why Khalil Gibran said, The good teacher is a person who opens the doors of the world through the textbook, through the pages of the textbook. പുസ്തകങ്ങളുടെ താളുകളിലൂടെ ലോകത്തിന്റെ വാതായനം തുറന്നു കൊടുക്കുന്നവരാണ് നല്ല അധ്യാപകർ. So this denotes the importance of thinking, the process of thinking in the classroom. And for thinking, for generating thinking, for developing thinking, for encouraging thinking, there should be a base, that is of course the knowledge. If we don't have adequate knowledge, the knowledge is the raw material for thinking. Actually, knowledge is a raw material for thinking. While we think as our own and we make its meaning, it becomes something refined for us. Or otherwise, whatever materials present before us, they are merely information. It is our responsibility to convert and transform that information to knowledge with real meaning for that. And when we come to identify the different types of knowledge, we have to find out the fact that while we communicate in the classroom, while we process the information of the textbook, we continuously interact with different types of knowledge in the textbook. And our role is to identify the nature of the knowledge. Then that will naturally help us to identify the level of the knowledge. And from that level itself, we can transact it in an effective way for the students. Now, let us go to this paragraph. It's slightly big, but it is our responsibility to identify something related to Sri Shankara College Kaladi, because these people are providing a platform for us. They are the reason for this gathering, right? Okay. Sri Shankara College Kaladi was founded in the year 1954 by Swami Agamananda. The institution was established with a view to perpetuating the memory and doctrines of the great saint and philosopher Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankara was the exponent of Advaita philosophy. His teachings can be summed up as follows. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmayam Napara. Brahman alone is real. This world is unreal. The Jiva is identical with Brahma. The college is in Ernakulam district, 17 kilometers from Alva, and can easily reach there by bus. My knowledge about the college is limited, but I have a few friends in the college who are very sincere and work in team for the development of the institution. So these are some information related to Sri Shankara College Kaladi. And എന്തെങ്കിലും ചേഞ്ചസ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ of course you can change it. Sri Shankara College ആര് പറയണേ. So see the first sentence. Sri Shankara College Kaladi was founded in the year 1954 by Swami Agamananda. And
It's not visible. It's not changing.
hello, I'm not audible.
Slide is visible, ma'am.
Slide not moving. Slide change.
Wait, please. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, but the new slide is not visible.
Not visible?
No, ma'am.
Slide is showing
Okay.
now.
Okay. Then
This is the first slide, title slide.
you can share it once more. Is it visible now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
No, it is visible.
Okay, okay. Now, please go through this. Sri Shankara College, Kaladi was founded in the year 1954 by Swami Agamananda. The institution was established with a view to perpetuating the memory and doctrines of the great saint and philosopher Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankara was the exponent of Advaita philosophy. His teachings can be summed up as follows. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Brahma alone is real. This world is unreal. The Jiva is identical with Brahma. The college is situated in Ernakulam district, 17 kilometers from Alva, and can easily reach there by bus. My knowledge about the college is limited, but I have a few friends in this college who are very sincere and work in team for the development of the institution. Okay. Now, while we go through the content of this part, see the first part, Sri Shankara College, Kaladi was founded in the year 1954 by Swami Agamananda. This statement cannot be changed by an expert in the field of Advaita or a person belong to education or a person from politics, I think. So this is a fact. This is a precise fact related to Sri Shankara College. And when we come to the second aspect of the college, the institution was established with a view to perpetuating the memory and doctrines of the great saint and philosopher Adi Shankaracharya. And Adi Shankara was the exponent of Advaita philosophy. His teachings can be summed up as follows. They are organized informations related to Sri Shankaracharya, and that includes a lot of facts, but can be interpreted and can be expanded and extended to different ways. So when different facts come together, that grows to another organized structure of the knowledge. And we cannot say that these are precise facts. They can be termed as concepts. When I come to the third level, the college is in Ernakulam district, 17 kilometers from Alva, and can easily reach there by bus. It's a fact. At the same time, it gives a procedure for everyone to reach the college. How to reach the college? So this shows a procedure related to that. And this is the next level, or that may be termed as procedural knowledge. The last one is something related to my knowledge about the college, and that is something very personal. And it changes from person to person. While you write something about this college, the last paragraph, last sentence will be different. So this is some other type of knowledge, and we go to these types of knowledge. There are 4 types of knowledge. One is factual knowledge. The next is conceptual knowledge. Third one is procedural knowledge. And And fourth one is metacognitive knowledge. The knowledge, my knowledge about the college, that is known as metacognitive knowledge. My thinking about my own knowledge and thinking, that is known as metacognition. Cognition, the word denotes thinking. So while we communicate in the classroom, we continuously communicate knowledge of these four categories. While we go through a textbook, while we cover the syllabus, majority of the content are related to factual, conceptual, and procedural knowledge. And when we use those information as my own, and while I transact in my classroom, I usually refer the metacognitive knowledge, in the sense that I believe that, I think that this particular content has relevance, like this shows the metacognitive aspect of the knowledge. So these are the four different types of knowledge, and these four types of knowledge help us to proceed towards the thinking, from where we have to start the thinking and how we can develop the thinking through this knowledge. What is factual knowledge? The basic elements of an academic subject that we transact in the classroom. We have to use different types of terminology, specific details and elements in the classroom. That is very specific. Usually these terms, details which are very specific in the subject, they are usually termed as subject reference. We continuously use different types of reference in the classroom so that the students become familiarized with these terms, these details and these elements. And we try to represent knowledge through different types of events, locations, people, dates, books, sources like that, which are unavoidable while we transact content in the classroom. So when I ask the question, which is the place, who is the person, when did it happen, where is it located, all these are focusing towards the factual knowledge. See, what is our role in transacting this factual knowledge? It is historically prepared knowledge, and the only duty is the sharing of the knowledge. We haven't any special creative task to integrate in presenting factual knowledge. The only thing is that the precision should be there while we present the factual knowledge. We are not expected to present something by changing the date or changing the people or locations. Sometimes we see different political issues where politicians try to make changes in the history by changing the people or the dates or the events, and many objections rise because we believe that these are certain factual knowledge and they are true. They might be true, they may be true to some extent, but some are changing, some facts are changing. So when we communicate in the classroom, especially if you are a teacher of history or a teacher from science, most of the factual knowledge of the textbook we directly transact in the classroom for the students. And the role of the students, they have to memorize it. And as we have seen earlier, majority of the part A questions belong to factual knowledge. No scope for higher order thinking, but still we believe that memorization or the memory is an important aspect of intelligence. But we do not promote rote memorization, but still the memory has its own significance in the intellectual development of a person. And when we see that memory is lost, everything is lost. When we come to Alzheimer's or the dementia diseases, we say that the person is biologically living but not socially living because their memory is lost. So memory has its own importance in our life, no doubt. So memorization is essential for living and for learning. And memorization helps us to store the information, and all those conceptual or the procedural knowledge are generated from factual knowledge. So the memorization of the factual knowledge is essential, no doubt. And we know almost all types of examinations, tests, all public service commission test, different tests related to bank current affairs test, all these aspects are related to factual knowledge testing. So we cannot ignore the importance of factual knowledge in the classroom. But one thing is that students can directly absorb the factual knowledge without the help of a teacher or a person. They can easily grasp the factual knowledge by reading the text. So the role of the teacher is very limited in transacting or in getting the factual knowledge for a learner. And sometimes we have to identify the changing nature of facts. So this is a part of our critical thinking. We have to think critically whether all the facts are true and fixed or rigid. The critical thinking helps everybody to analyze the nature of the fact, to label it as the real fact or the changing fact. Sometimes knowledge about people and places in news that may continuously change. So we do not feel that the news is a fact. The news try to present facts, but sometimes or always we see that these facts are continuously changing. So then we have to perceive all types of news as certain presentation of information. For all those messages what we see, quite often in the WhatsApp messages, they are information. They cannot be perceived as facts. So here is the importance of developing critical thinking and the skill of discriminative power among the students to verify which is true and which is false, which is fact, which is changing. Particular culture and society. Sometimes we read that many historical evidences sometimes shows that some cultural aspects are changing by getting new evidences related to that. And when we come to human health and human needs, we see that the facts are continuously changing. See, when I say that I have fever, now I have to check whether it is a viral fever or a fever of something related to COVID. So the fever is a fact, but the facts related to this particular fact is continuously changing. So these are emerging facts. We have to identify these are emerging facts. And see the changes in the human needs. Majority of us are familiar with the need theory of Abraham Maslow. And Maslow says that basic human needs are food, shelter, clothes, like that. And we move towards self-actualization. We need certain affective aspects of love, respect from other people. We have cognitive needs like getting knowledge like that. And finally, we would like to progress towards self-actualization. See, while we come to this phase, we believe that we all have certain digital needs which are essential for living nowadays. So in all spheres of education and all spheres of economic development and all spheres of the national development, now we think about the digital divide and how we can solve this. So we cannot ignore the importance of digital needs. Without digital facilities, without digital equipments, how the learning process progress, how education function. So we believe that even though there are different facts related to human needs, that is still changing. And it is interesting that the reputation of a person, we believe that the person has different sort of qualifications or qualities and reputation is there, but when different situations arises, we feel that the reputation also changes, and their involvement in different activities or issues or cases or criminal activities or something like that, we feel that the reputation gets reduced. So even though these are facts, they are continuously changing. And this sort of critical thinking will help us to identify the real nature of the fact. Now see, what was the height of Everest? A few years back, the height of Everest was 8848 Poli, or 8,844 according to Chinese version. But now if you search for the height of Everest in Google, the Google will ask, height of Everest in 2020? Yes. Even though it is a digit clearly printed in all textbook as the height of Everest this much, but now we say that it is changing. And in 2020 December, it is declared that 86 centimeters elevation for the Everest, and the new height is now recorded as 8,848.86 meters. So this is the changing nature of fact. So while we deal with facts, at the beginning I have mentioned that there is no role for the teacher. But this indicates that the teacher should critically analyze whether the fact is a rigid one or there is a scope for changing that. So it's a responsibility for the students to think in a very divergent manner that there are some possibility for changing these facts, and they can observe, they can identify the reality or the precision of those particular facts. Okay. Now we go to conceptual knowledge. That is the organized information. While we go through the text, we can see different types of classifications and categories. When a sentence includes the words different types, it can be divided to different aspects. It consists of the components of the concept are, parts of these are like, so all these contents belonging to conceptual knowledge. And all principles and generalizations we communicate in the classroom, that again is conceptual knowledge. Or theories, or models and structures of different concepts, different ideas, all these are conceptual knowledge. And we have to present different paradigms and epistemologies. And all sort of explanations, descriptions, predictions, everything come under conceptual knowledge. So when we analyze the classroom activities or our interactions in the classroom, we identify that most of our time we are dealing with conceptual knowledge. We have to experiment with conceptual knowledge. Experimenting, that doesn't mean that the experiment should be in a laboratory. As teachers, we have to experiment with different types of concepts of our textbook. What is its implication? How it can be extended? How it can be interpreted in a different manner for the students? That is our experimentation with the ideas. So when we try to experiment with the concepts of our textbook, naturally students will get motivated to experiment with their concepts, and they will become the knowledge creators. So while we interact with the concepts and we try to transact the concept in the classroom, one important aspect is that the effective summarization and organization of the content for the learners is significant for them to identify or comprehend those concepts. So we try to explain concepts in the classroom, but the summarization and the organization help them to anchor it in their cognitive structure. Otherwise, it would be see, floating like a balloon in the air. We have to provide some hooks in their cognitive structure so that they can put everything there in a systematic manner. This is the cognitive organization so that they can retrieve it effectively. Here's the importance of concept map, by which we try to present numerous information, numerous concepts simultaneously for the students, whereby students link different components effectively. So this is the economic way of storing information, storing concepts. There are different techniques for that. They are usually termed as graphic organizers. See, while we prepare a PowerPoint presentation, we have an option, graphic smart art. Choose a smart art graphic. There are different icons for processes, cycle, hierarchy, relationship, matrix, pyramid, like that. All these give clear implication towards graphic organizers. And we can simply put, with the help of a sunshine wheel, a concept map or a mind map. When we come to mind map, there is a slight difference. When we come to concept map, the concepts are presented as a map, whereas in a mind map, we try to picturize, or the visuals are presented as such. So it becomes a visualization for the student. That is a mind map. And Venn diagram, ranking ladder, fishbone diagram, sequence chart, pie chart, everything has its own implication in presenting the content, concepts in an effective manner in the classroom. So graphic organizers are the tools that can be integrated in the classroom for presenting conceptual knowledge. And while we use the conceptual knowledge in the classroom, while we transact the conceptual knowledge in the classroom, naturally I have to use the questions like explain, illustrate, narrate, summarize, paraphrase, in your own words, like that. What do you mean by? What is the analysis? What is your observation? All these are related to conceptual knowledge. So from factual knowledge, we come to conceptual knowledge, the next level. So the conceptual knowledge provides wide opportunity for the learners to think in a very divergent manner. Then the third one is the procedural knowledge. When I say that I can reach Sri Shankara College by traveling by bus 17 kilometers from Alway, that is my procedure. That gives a procedure to reach Sri Shankara College. Like that, it is the knowledge of how, which is very important in our life. How can I solve it? How can I achieve it? How can I share it? So the question of how is very significant in our life. Whenever there comes different sequences, steps, techniques, methods, algorithms, and processes, naturally that become a procedural knowledge. Any content where we expect a process, that can be converted as a procedural knowledge. When I say you have to critically evaluate a poem, critically evaluate a question paper, you use the procedural knowledge for that. For solving a problem, we have to identify certain procedures for that. What is research methodology? It is totally related to the procedure. When we come to laboratory, the procedure is very important, and we directly write procedure of the experiment. While we prepare a seminar paper, if you are familiar with the real procedure of that, the seminar paper will be excellent. So this is procedural knowledge. How to use something, how to implement something, how to use a concept appropriately. The facts are there, concepts are there, how to use it appropriately. As a student, I know different equations, different processes, how to use it appropriately for solving a problem in the question paper. That is procedural knowledge. And that is quite confusing. While we deal with a problem, which equation is to be selected for this particular problem? Procedural knowledge is essential for that. While I am doing a survey, which tool is to be selected for getting data for that? Which tool is to be selected for doing my research? So this is procedural knowledge, which is very significant in our classrooms. And when to use a procedure, when to explain, when to summarize, this is an important challenge for the students while they face the question paper. See, we have questions of 2 marks, questions of 4 marks, questions of 8 marks or 15 marks. When to explain, when to summarize, and what is the procedure of summarizing the conceptual knowledge. That is a skill for the learner for appearing for the examination. So these all are different aspects of the performance of the students in a test. While we think about outcome-based examining or outcome-based education or preparing standard question papers, these things are very important. How the students are equipped to face the question paper or use the question paper so that they can express their knowledge appropriately. For that, they have to get the procedural knowledge of explanation, how to explain effectively, how to summarize something, how to explain my answer for matching a mark of 15, how to summarize my answer for getting a mark of 4. So these all are related to the procedural knowledge of students' knowledge or student skills. So while we deal with different types of knowledge, students also should be aware of the fact that these are the different types of knowledge through which they are interacting. These are the knowledge to be reproduced while they utilize or while they're facing the examination. So when they get a basic understanding related to these types of knowledge, they become aware of the fact that the conceptual knowledge is to be explained. Procedural knowledge is to be illustrated or is to be presented effectively. And the selection of the procedural knowledge is very important. So as teachers, we have to present these types of knowledge effectively for the students, and it should be visible for them so that they get a clear discrimination between these things. Okay. Now, let us have an exercise. 10 questions are there. The question identify the type of knowledge. 1 to 10. Paper discuss. You first write 1 to 10, your answers, and then we will discuss. 22nd June 2021 is Tuesday. What is the type of knowledge? Factual, conceptual, or procedural? That is your assignment, your answer. That should be your answer. One among these three. 22nd June 2021 is Tuesday. That is the first statement. What is it? Factual, conceptual, or procedural? Now, second one. Okay, you note it down. Don't tell it loudly now so that everybody get a chance to identify. We will discuss it later after going to the 10. After the 10th one, we will discuss the answer. The second one, World Music Day is celebrated on June 21st. Factual, conceptual, or procedural. Third one, Olympics 2020 will be held at Tokyo in the coming month. That is in July 26th, 2021. See the changing nature of the fact. Olympics 2020 is a fact, but it will be held in Tokyo, held at Tokyo in 2021, July. So factual, conceptual, procedural. Fourth one, National Commission for Women received over 2,300 domestic violence complaints during last 3 months. And 70% of women who faced physical violence did not inform anyone about it. Factual, conceptual, procedural. Fifth one, effective teaching proceed through preparatory stage, interactive stage, and evaluation stage. Sixth, framing of question paper is a scientific process with the following steps. There are some steps that not included here, but there are some steps. Assume that. Framing of question paper is a scientific process with the following steps. Seventh one, learner outcome-based curriculum framework ensures that all students are able to demonstrate the graduate attributes. Factual, conceptual, or procedural. Ninth one, it's a beautiful quote. There are many things that can only be seen through eyes that have cried. It's a quote by Oscar Romero. Factual, conceptual, or procedural. Sorry, eighth one is missing. That is interesting one. Shri Prasad, Miss Preeti, Miss Gauri are the coordinators of the present FDP. Factual, conceptual, or procedural. Now, please come to ninth one. There are many things that can only be seen through the eyes that have cried. Quote by Oscar Romero. And the last one, 10th one. Internet penetration and bandwidth issues still seem to be the challenges of online education. Yes, have you completed? Now take the first one, 22nd June 2021 is Tuesday. What's your answer?
Factual.
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 Second one?
Factual.
Factual. Very good.
Factual.
Third one?
Conceptual.
Factual plus concept.
Factual plus conceptual. Anyway, that is going to happen. That will be factual, I think. If conceptual എന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമല്ലോ, factual തന്നെ ആയിരിക്കും, അല്ലേ? Conceptual ആണോ? That's a factual because the preparations are going on. Maybe factual. Changing nature of the factual knowledge. അത് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി മാത്രം ഞാൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്തേ ഉള്ളൂ. It cannot be perceived as a conceptual knowledge. It is actually factual knowledge. Now, fourth one. Yeah, organized information. Factual or conceptual? Conceptual. Yeah, conceptual knowledge. Very good. Fifth one?
Procedural.
Procedural. Very good. Very good. Sixth one? Yeah, sixth one?
Procedural.
Procedural.
Procedure.
Right. Seventh one?
Conceptual.
Conceptual. Right. Conceptual. Eighth one?
It's a fact.
Factual. Yeah. Ninth one? Conceptual. Very good. And the last one also belong to? Conceptual. Very good. Now we can easily identify the different types of knowledge which is presented before us through any media, whatever it is. So this is an important exercise to be developed among the students too, so that they can identify which is the type of knowledge, what is the changing nature of the knowledge, which is to be taken as a fact and which is to be taken as a concept, and where are certain procedures to be followed, right? Now we come to the fourth important knowledge, metacognitive knowledge. What is metacognitive knowledge? This any disturbance? Okay. Can I proceed?
No, okay, ma'am.
It's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's the awareness of knowledge about one's own thinking,
okay.
self-awareness, self-reflection, right? Self-reflection. നമ്മൾ ചിലപ്പോൾ പറയത്തില്ലേ സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോഴേക്കും അയ്യോ ഞാൻ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് ഈ ആലോചിച്ചു കൂട്ടുന്നതെന്ന്. ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് മെറ്റാകോഗ്നിഷൻ. ഞാൻ എന്തൊക്കെയായി പറഞ്ഞത്, ഞാൻ എന്തൊക്കെയായി ചിന്തിക്കുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെ ചിന്തിച്ചാൽ ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് മെറ്റാകോഗ്നിഷൻ. So it's awareness about our own thinking.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I was trying to talk to you. I don't know. You couldn't hear me. Can you just explain the fourth one? Like not this one, regarding that questions. The fourth one, how you said it is factual one.
Yeah.
No, it is conceptual. Can you just explain it?
Yeah.
Why it
See,
is conceptual, not factual?
Factual, yeah. We see that these are the, there are some digits and we believe that these are facts. But this data is, it says that National Commission for Women received over 2,300 domestic violence complaints during last 3 months. That means March, April, May. And 70% of women who faced physical violence did not inform anyone about it. Is it a fact? This may be the generalization from the comments received or through the interactions. So we cannot perceive it as a fact. And those 70% cannot be taken as a fact. And over 2,300 doesn't show the clear or the precise number. So these are tentative facts, or more correctly, they are concepts. So we cannot completely believe the statement that 70% of women who faced physical violence did not inform anyone about it. How do we come to this generalization? Okay. So this is the explanation, that this is how we have to think critically to analyze whether it is a fact or concept. And I have taken this report from yesterday's report of Hindu. And it is not a statistically proved or published document. It is just a news. And I have already mentioned that whatever things that present before a news have its own lack of precision. And so we have to take it as a conceptual knowledge, right? Thank you. Now we come to metacognitive knowledge. It is the thinking about the thinking process. And see, it includes 3 different components. The first one is strategic knowledge. What are the different strategies through which I can learn something? I can remember something. I can proceed towards my goals. This is strategic knowledge. So at present,
your slide, excuse me, your slide is not moving.
Not visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
It is visible. It is visible.
Okay. Thank you. So what are the different strategies by which I can achieve certain goals? That is known as strategic knowledge. So when we aim for a goal, when we plan for working for the goal, of course, we have to select certain strategies. See, when we try to prepare question papers, so this FDP is a strategy for that. Why do we choose to participate in the FDP? We believe that by attending the FDP, that will enhance our knowledge related to question paper preparation. So this can be treated as a strategy, participating in the FDP. And the second one is cognitive task knowledge. There are different strategies, different tasks are there. Which strategy is matching for which task? So when and how it is to be applied. This is the cognitive task knowledge which is to be imparted for teachers as well as for students. See, at present we are unable to have face-to-face communication in the classroom. Otherwise, we have face-to-face classes, and sometimes we prepare PowerPoint slides, sometimes we give direct interaction, sometimes we have to conduct group discussions in the classroom. So which strategy or which technique is to be used for which topic? Do we analyze that? We have to analyze and select appropriate strategies for appropriate content, and we have to use it according to the needs and requirements of the students. So how we can perform the task effectively by utilizing the strategies? That is cognitive task knowledge. How I can present my answer paper effectively? That's a cognitive task. The third one is about self-knowledge. My self-knowledge related to my performance. How do I perform? Examination, it was very easy. Oh, I couldn't. I hope that I will pass. All these are self-knowledge related to their test behavior. And what is my motivational level? What is my self-efficacy belief? Self-efficacy belief means my belief about my capacities. What do you believe about your own capacities? We all have different talents and potentialities. Do you believe that you can do many, many things simultaneously? See, while we are at home, we are attending this FDP program at the same time. After 11:30, you all are supposed to do some jobs at home, or you have to take care of your children. At the same time, you have to take care of your different activities of the college. Simultaneously, we perform different things, and we have to believe that we are efficient in doing or performing many things. But sometimes due to lack of confidence or due to lack of metacognitive knowledge, we believe that we are unable to do many things. We have no confidence to proceed. So our total behavior changes, our motivational level diminishes, and we become another person sometimes. That's why APJ Abdul Kalam once said, try to become the first version of yourself. Don't try to become the second or third version of somebody else. So when we analyze our own self, what is our edition? Is it our first version? What was your beliefs, attitudes, and thoughts before marriage? What was your thoughts after 2-3 years after the marriage? And what is your edition at present? As Benny sir mentioned, majority of the women are working for some other people of home, and they believe that they are 3rd, 4th, or the 10th edition of their own self. So the self-knowledge is very important, and we have to believe in our own potentialities. For that, the motivation is essential, and the self-knowledge is the basic essential element for successful life, of course. And that's the first exercise that we have done yesterday, whether we are able to achieve our full potential. So we are unable to identify the full potential. That is the basic barrier before us. So self-efficacy beliefs have its own importance in learning, in teaching too. In learning, we have to motivate our students to believe that they have the capacity to learn well and achieve well, right? So how we can impart the metacognitive part of the knowledge in our classroom? To promote metacognition, the students should have a self-awareness about these aspects. When they join for degree course in the college, what should I do first? Is anything confusing to me? Can I explain what I have learned? Should I ask for extra help? Why did I get this answer wrong? Can I apply this in different context? How can I do better next time? All these type of thoughts are related to metacognition. And this thinking process is to be integrated in all learning process so that the students can rectify, refine, and redefine their learning process. So the self-analysis is the most important or the prerequisite for effective learning. So these sort of metacognitive activities are to be imparted in our classroom, and I believe that this should be a part of our mentoring program. What are the different aspects of the metacognition that is to be imparted at the beginning of our course, or you say the bridge course? During the first or the second month of UG admission, after the admission of the UG course, if we give importance to imparting the development of metacognitive skills, that would probably help them to acquire more in all the levels of learning and all aspects of their life. See, this is the most important aspect or skill to be developed among the students, the information processing skill. How to read, how to write, how to listen effectively, how to present subject matter in an organized manner, how to write an assignment, how to present a paper. All these skills are to be imparted at the beginning itself. So these sort of self-check questionnaires can be given. Rating scale or checklist type tools can be provided for the students, can be given for the students so that they can analyze the self, and if they feel that something is to be modified, that modification is to be done at the beginning itself. When reading, I can distinguish readily between important and unimportant points. That's an important skill to be developed in the reading process for a learner. So this is to be identified earlier in the beginning of the course itself. As a teacher, I continuously give different assignments for the students. So there is the statement, I break assignments into manageable parts. So while you receive assignments from this teacher, that paper, that core paper, this complementary paper, how to manage all these things? You have to manage it. So these sort of statements will definitely help them to go through the self-reflection and the self-awareness. So this is simple example for integrating the metacognition in the classroom. We can easily assess the motivational level. This is the entry level assessment. See, when they come for the class during the initial days, of course, we have to analyze their motivation level. And as a teacher, if I feel that the motivation level is very low, what is my first role and responsibility? To encourage them to improve their motivation. Otherwise, they don't attend the class, they don't get benefits from my class. So, some question or some statements like this help them to identify whether they have the adequate level of motivation to continue the course. And if some students come forward with the rating scale, with a low score, of course, our intervention is necessary. That is mentoring, that is tutorial, that is the role of the teacher as a facilitator or a mentor. What are the barriers before you for this reduced or the diminished motivation? You have any problems related to your own family, your friends, your health? Let us identify and let us overcome this. I will help you for that. If we can solve it. So this is the metacognition. So this academic self-efficacy. Do you possess the necessary study skills for attending my class? Then please go through the statement. If you possess the necessary academic self-efficacy or the study skills for the for becoming a competent learner, do you ask questions in my class? Do you respond to my questions? Do you have a study plan? Do you need any help from me? Do you prepare your own notes? How do you manage your time for examinations? See, all these are similar sort of statements that clearly throws light towards the metacognitive awareness, self-awareness, which help us to refine the self. What is the most important challenge faced by the students? Where they are unable to identify their own mistakes. And we know nowadays the students from school level itself, they don't get opportunity to get corrections from teachers, or they're not ready to accept correction from their parents. So nobody is there to identify the mistakes of our children and to correct them. So these are some techniques which give indirectly a way for identification of the errors and rectification thereby. See, this is possible for a teacher too, this sort of metacognitive activity. This is the metacognitive or the reflective practice for a teacher. I try to teach with maximum teacher competencies, yes or no, or to some extent, great extent, not at all. I update my knowledge before going to class. I am sensitive to the criticism of others. I try to manage my time effectively while at college. I have cordial relationship with others, like that. So these sort of statements will help us to reflect upon our own practices, and it helps us to make our practice more better. And this is actually the reflective practice in teaching. Okay. So we have seen the different types of knowledge. So the task for today is select a content and analyze the integration of the different types of knowledge in that particular content. You just go through a paragraph of your subject or any subject, or just go through the newspaper and try to identify which are the factual knowledge, which are the conceptual knowledge, and which are the procedural knowledge. How metacognitive knowledge can be imparted in that, right? Okay. Yes, please come. If you have any doubts, please, as it's time for clarification. Otherwise, it is 11:30. Anything to ask?
Dear participants, if you have any doubt, you may ask now.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a doubt. I'm from Kannur University. It is regarding the question paper. The question paper basically 12 marks, 8 marks, and 5 marks. If questions first level remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating, അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞനുസരിച്ചാണെങ്കിൽ ഈ 12 മാർക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് വരുന്നത് ജനറലി ക്രിയേറ്റിംഗ് ലെവൽ. അപ്പൊ ആദ്യം ഫസ്റ്റ് അങ്ങനത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഒരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പേപ്പർ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത് ശരിയാണോ? ഈ ക്രിയേറ്റിംഗ് ലെവലുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഫസ്റ്റ് ഡേയും ലാസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടായിട്ട് ഡിഫൈൻ ചെയ്യേണ്ട പോലത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഇടുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നത് ശരിയായ ഒരു മെത്തേഡാണോ?
Okay, we will have very detailed discussions regarding all these things. Anyway, it doesn't indicate that when there is marks of 5, 8, 12 like that, it doesn't indicate that 5 should be related to remembering, 8 should be for understanding, and 12 should be for creating. That doesn't mean that the marks should be like that according to the level of thinking process. So any questions can be interpreted as analysis or creating, and usually we say that the questions should progress in a difficulty level or from simple to complex like that. So we will have the detailed description of how to integrate different thinking levels and different questions, and that we will discuss after learning or after discussing the Bloom's taxonomy, and I think the doubts will be clarified after that. So remembering, understanding അങ്ങനെയാണ് അതിന്റെ ഹൈറാർക്കി എന്നതുകൊണ്ട് 12 മാർക്കിന്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഹൈറാർക്കിയുടെ ടോപ്പിൽ ആയിരിക്കണമെന്ന് ഒരു നിർബന്ധവും ഇല്ല. So we can distribute the questions according to the nature of the course we handle. If I believe that in the module, some part of the module has the scope for including questions from create, that is to be included. And different types of prioritization is possible, so that we will discuss later. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It is almost similar to the earlier one. In related with procedural knowledge, you are explaining things like sequence, steps, methods, etc. And that also included critical evaluation, maybe critical evaluation of steps or methods, or evaluation of the problem solving method. So such kinds of things, does that limit to knowledge, or will it go to the other higher levels? Like critical evaluation of steps, things like that.
Yes, okay. Now we have been trying to classify the knowledge to different levels, and the next step is we are trying to integrate the thinking skills to these levels. So when we say that this is procedural knowledge, the procedural knowledge, so it includes factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, and it's a combination of many things. And of course, when we stick on to procedural knowledge, the procedural knowledge itself offers scope for critical thinking, the skills of analysis, evaluation, everything, because we have to identify the procedure, which procedure is appropriate. We have to verify the procedure, whether it is good or bad. We have to discriminate something. So all these sort of thinking levels will be integrated after we discussing the Bloom's taxonomy. So this is just a classification of the knowledge so that we can get an understanding of the different types of knowledge that we are transacting in the classroom, or the types of knowledge through which the students are interacting. So how these knowledge types can be integrated with the thinking skills, that we are going to discuss in the coming sessions. Okay.
So in other words, you mean that these kinds of knowledge base will be working for the higher cognitive aspects, right?
Definitely. See, even the factual knowledge is the lowest level of knowledge. See the scope of critical thinking in the factual knowledge while we think about the height of Everest, or while we say that I have fever. Then also the high level thinking skills are integrated with that. So all types of knowledge are closely associated with all levels of higher level thinking. There is scope for that, right? Yes, it's 11:40 now. Shall we conclude?
Ma'am, 1 minute. Miss
Yes.
Sumi had raised her hand. I think she wants to ask something.
Yes, sure.
So, you may ask her. Miss Sumi. Ma'am, I think she's not here.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful session on the various types of, different types of knowledge, and for explaining the conceptual, factual, and procedural knowledge to us so well. A gentle reminder to all the participants to join back for the next session at 2 p.m. Thank you.